All right, man. Apparently Isaiah Stewart. We all was kind of flabbergasted by Isaiah Stewart, and kind of him getting traded. A lot of people, charged it off as as a cap space move, and for the most part, they're starting to say that he was a problem. He was arguing with coaches, had multiple heated arguments. Uh, at the end of the day, these are rumors that's going around. Now it kind of makes sense that he was a locker room problem for them, and probably when you started to verbally get into it with coaches, um, you started to verbally get in there with coaches, and then also some of the the things that on the court, kind of filing and all filing and or getting into fights, and they just was like, okay, we love the attitude on the court, but we don't really like it off the court. We don't want it off the court. We don't want friendly fire. And they packed them up. They got rid of them. So, I mean, they feel like it was messing with the peace, but also, but by them trading him, for the most part, that gave the Detroit Pistons, that gave Jalen Duren more leverage. So think about that for a minute. By them getting rid of him, that gave Jalen Duren a lot more leverage. Now. Now the thing about Beef Stewart is he's like in that Mitchell Robinson category where, with him, he can't play a ton of minutes. Stewart ain't gonna be a 35 to 40-minute player, every night, and that's just the category of it. So, that's just what it is. Excuse me. But I was surprised when they moved him, and none of this leaked out. Ain't none of this leaked out. So, I don't know. Sorry, y'all. I don't know what's going on with the internet or the web browser. But, it says former Detroit Pistons Isaiah Stewart had multiple heated moments with the Pistons coaching staff throughout the postseason. Throughout the postseason, we know he didn't play a lot of minutes. That we do know. There wasn't a lot of minutes being played for him. We charged it to maybe if it was a calf situation. But, when he did go out there, he played amazing defense, but it boiled down to, and maybe that's why they were so hesitant to play Paul Reed a lot of minutes, because, Isaiah Stewart was bitching and complaining. Maybe it just wasn't the point of, let's just not play Paul Reed because of Jalen Duren's feelings. No, it seems like not play Paul Reed because, they were trying to accommodate Isaiah Stewart. And let me say one thing about life. Let me say one thing about life. I'm gonna say this: when you try to accommodate and please everybody just end up hating you. At some point, you got to take a stance and you got to choose a side, right? And ultimately, they chose Paul Reed over Isaiah Stewart. That's just what it boiled down to. So this is a good take right here about Piston Talk. I like him a lot. The biggest thing being left out of the Isaiah Stewart clearly wasn't 100%. He injured himself against the Magic during his eight block game. And after that, he had a very little lift. His minutes also decreased because Paul Reed was giving the Pistons more offensively, which one can say he should have got more minutes than Duren, and maybe they would have made it to the Eastern Conference Final. Stu's a passionate player. I wouldn't describe any of those conversations heated. He was just simply frustrated. Now, that could be true, but they moved him. So, even before they moved him, this wasn't even a topic of conversation. Now it's a topic of conversation. Why some clarity And now, really, I mean, Jalen Duren need to, send him a Benz or send him a gift or something like that because what we know now, what we know now, they have no other choice but to pay this man because they got rid of Stewart. They could have just kept Stewart and Paul Reed and then got a Vujovic and traded for. They probably would have been more comfortable with doing a Sabonis deal, for Jalen Duren. But I still don't think that's equal. But that's another story for another day. And it's very unfortunate. But let's hop back over here and go through the comment section, and I'll go through a couple of them. He said, I'm on the miss seeing his son on the floor shooting baskets after every home game. It's been a privilege. That was a woman. What's good comes from posting is now after he's gone, what is done is done. But I think at this point, this gives people clarity about why they moved him. The Pistons should have kept him and added some more bona fide shooting. They did not need to trade him for any kind of players they got. They defensively weak now, and there's still no significant upgrade opposite of Cade. Tobias is gone, and it ain't JD. I think JD ain't it. And at the end of the day, I get where people are saying, the whole thing, and but obviously, it's gonna be a turnover coming. With some of these older players, we've seen it with Tim, we've seen it with Beasley. There's gonna be a turnover different. And if you're gonna get Jalen Duren all that money, you expect for him to step up offensively. You expect for him to step up. I mean, offensively and defensively. And Duren, for Isaiah Stewart, if you cause him trouble on the floor, being physical, being an enforcer, that's cool. But then, kind of when the friendly fire, you start yelling at the coaches and all that type of stuff. And he was injured, and that's why he got a G pass. That's why they gave him a G pass, because he was injured. But ultimately, they just basically said, it might not just have been the injury, or it might not even been him fighting with the coaches. That might not even been the most significant thing that got him packed up out of here. They probably got tired of dealing with the suspensions, the on the court shit. They probably got tired of it because everything you hear about him is that he's a good dude. All his teammates love him, so it's kind of hard to see them moving him. And I think it is hellified week if they sit here and they kind of do this now, probably because he wanted more playing time. And I mean, obviously that's what they're saying here. We will always have love for Stu. If you remember correctly, he was the first one to embrace the identity of the bad boy. I mean, yeah, and this is pretty much the problem here, is that you got rid of the guy that was the identity. He was the identity of the team. Now, will they still have that identity, especially after what people seen with Jalen Duren and him being not so tough? And I think the attitude comes with Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, and Asar Thompson. I think they have a lot to do with the attitude of the team, a lot. But Stu was really that enforcer, you know what I'm saying? He really was that enforcer, and a lot of people gonna miss him. But if this is why they traded him, because of him yelling at the coaches, to me, it just couldn't have been a little bit of small banners, a little bit of yelling, screaming. It had to be a lot of bit of something. You know what I mean? It had to be a lot of bit of something. And that's my opinion. You know what I'm saying? But just my opinion. Stu and Tarajian both denied that he was injured. He straight sucks ass. I mean, I can see that he was injured. I think we all seen it. Stu was probably also mad that Duren was getting a lot of minutes, even though he was playing hot garbage. To be honest, Paul Reed should have been playing 30-plus minutes. That's true. No offense to the writer, but none of those instances sound like much of anything. I mean, it you can say it doesn't sound like much of anything, but the problem with that is he's gone. He's gone. He's gone. So why did he leave? Now that this come out, it simply wasn't a cap move, because then I've asked the question on this channel. I've asked the question on YouTube. I mean, on Facebook. I've asked this very same question. Do you feel like it was worth trading Beef Stew to create? Did they use the cap space that they used to trade Beef Stew? I mean, the cap space they got from trading Beef Stew. It was it worth it? And most people say no. It was underwhelming. They didn't land the name. Had they landed the name that people would have said could help Kay Cunningham out, I think people would be like, we love Stu, but he had to go for this to happen. But he had to go, for basically nothing. And now they getting out there and saying that no, he was a problem. This is why we got rid of him. He was a problem. In a ways, they hear what all the fans say and they leak stuff to the media so the fans can get an understanding of why they did what they did. And now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. He gave them a reason. You got to remember, K wasn't Terajan's guy. I think did he draft Asar Thompson? No, I think his first draft pick was Ryan. Asar wasn't this guy. You know what I'm saying? Durr wasn't his guy. These not his guys. These are not his guys. So, but eventually, it is what it is. You're a great player, but he won't get much of a whole season from him. In 2 playoff run, you can't guarantee his body is going to hold up in playoff, and he has been missing games since the case. And that's true. Durability ain't there. The conditioning don't be looking there. He get tired. You can't rely on him for 30 minutes. He's a good 15 to 20 minute player. And that's why he's still fairly young. That's why he's still fairly young. So I think people have to understand that too. But hey, thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, find me on X, Instagram, Facebook, Cash App, Venmo, everything inside the link description. It says find me everywhere. Peace.